Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for From Hospice to Hope, Leading a School Culture That Inspires. My name is Laura MacDonald, and I'm the Director of Professional Learning at NCEA. Before we begin, I have a few quick housekeeping notes for you. One, you might have noticed we are recording. Two, if you have questions during the presentation, you can use the Q&A box. We use it like a chat box. You can type in your questions. We will monitor as we go on and do our best to answer any questions you may have. And third, at the end of the session, I will share a link for you to complete an online survey. You can take it whether you're with us live or participating asynchronously. Go ahead and take the survey. It'll be shared with you. And this is also the way you can receive a certificate of completion for this session. So watch for that in the end in the chat box. Today's speaker is Christopher Malmany. And before I turn over to him, I'd like to thank him for being here with us. And let's begin in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Almighty God, you sent forth your Son as a beacon of hope for all people. As a teacher, he has given the prime example of the importance of education. As disciples, we look to him for inspiration and strength. Thank you for the many people who have dedicated their lives in service to our Catholic schools. Thank you for the teachers and administrators who sustain our schools. Thank you to the parents who have given support and witness to the importance of Catholic education. Thank you to the students who work hard to further their education. Bless all our Catholic schools and the many people who advance our mission. May our schools be a home for those who seek to grow in openness, faith, love, intellect, and commitment to justice. In your name we pray. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And now, they're all yours, Chris.
Thanks, Laura. Good afternoon, everybody, from wherever you're coming to us from. Again, as Laura said, my name is Chris Momini. I am the former Secretary of Education in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, where St. John Newman founded parochial schools, and also superintendent of schools for some time before that in the Diocese of Syracuse. Have served as a principal, a teacher, and as I said, superintendent and secretary. And so it's a great joy to be with you to talk to you a little bit about mindset and how mindset translates to culture, and how that culture can really inspire and change the way you do things in your school, in your classroom, or in any organization you're a part of. But Catholic education is just part of my DNA. I've been part of it for almost all of my life, except for my last 4 years as a CEO of a foundation. So I want to share a story with you at the beginning that sort of speaks to me about the story of Catholic education. And it's a story written by Portia Nelson, and it's called An Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters. And to me, it captures this idea, this concept of moving from hospice mindset to a mindset of hope. And it goes like this. Chapter 1. I walk down the street and there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it's there, but I still fall in because it's become a habit. But my eyes are open and I know where I am. It's my fault, and I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. I walk down another street. I think when we're talking about this concept of hospice mindset, we're talking about the concept that the best days of Catholic schools and Catholic education are behind us. The glory days of the 40s and 50s, boy, it was a great run. And now we, as its caretakers now, as this generation of leaders. Our job's really just to give it comfort care until it ultimately just dies. And I think if that's the collective mindset of your school, of your own leadership approach, of your board, of your pastor, of your parish, then I think we're doomed. But when we're challenged to think differently, when we're challenged to go down a different street, paved with innovation and change and collaboration and all of the great things that are going on in Catholic schools these days, then I think we are shifting the mindset from one of hospice to hope. One of my favorite quotes, and I know there's a lot of words for a screen or a PowerPoint slide, it breaks all of those rules. But in 2006, so almost 17 years ago now, the University of Notre Dame put out this study called "Making God Known, Loved, and Served," and it talked about the future, which is where we're living now. And without reading the whole quote to you, because hopefully you can see it, okay, is that mandate, that challenge to us as the current generation to really step up in this time of crisis, in this time of opportunity, to put all of our resources together, all of our creative resources, all of our growth mindset, all of those opportunities that are ahead of us to change the ending, to change the ending. That last line, instead, when the story of Catholic schools is written, historians will look back on our age and marvel that against great odds, we changed the ending. So we certainly don't want to be that generation that squandered and let the Catholic schools die a happy death. We instead want to promote that concept, that idea that the best days of Catholic schools, the best days of Catholic education are ahead of us and not behind us. So how do we do that? Nice concept, nice idea. How might we find success with that? Or what are some tools that we can use? Well, the first thing I want to talk about in light of that is what our theme is today, and that's culture. Culture really simply defined is, the way we do things around here, right? You may think of your homes. You may think of your places of work. You may think of your parish. You may think of other people who talk about where they work. And it basically really comes down to, it's the way we do things around here. So I would suggest to you that one of the ways to change mindset and to move to a growth mindset from a hospice mindset is to change the way we do things around here. The famous quote by Einstein that says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And so there is this opportunity right now for us, and many, many places have done this. Embrace growth, embrace innovation, embrace change. Because as leaders in your schools, or even the leader of your classroom, if there are teachers on with us today or seeing this afterwards, culture is the shadow of the leader. Culture that is created. You may have heard this before, but I was told in some of my graduate classes that a school takes on the personality of its principal within 2 or 3 years, probably more 2, and maybe even sooner than that. School takes on the personality of its principal. That's another way of saying that culture, tone at the top, is what is set by the leader. And if I've been in these schools, and perhaps you can reflect on your own experience visiting other schools, if you have a principal who's more academic, maybe a little bit more shy and reserved, very organized, very neat, put together, you will walk into that school and you'll probably see that same reflection. On the other side, if you see a school or a principal that is sort of outgoing and, is more affective and is more out in the classrooms, out on the front steps of the school, piles on their desk, then the school might be running in a little bit of a different way. So that's culture, that's tone at the top. Again, like to tell stories, and there's a story told of, it's the picture of the sisters up here. to drive home the point of culture, right? And just a little bit of maybe some comic relief. But Sister Mary Holywater was welcomed to the Convent of Silence by the Mother Superior on the day she got to the convent. And she said, "Sister, you're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like. But, Sister Mary Holywater, you may not speak until I direct you to do so." So 5 years pass, and Mother Superior says, "Sister, you've remained silent for 5 years. You may speak 2 words." And Sister Mary Holywater says, "Hard bed." Mother Superior says, "I'm sorry to hear that. We'll get you a better bed." 5 more years pass, and Mother Superior says, "You may say your next 2 words, sister." And Sister Mary Holywater says, "Cold food." Mother Superior says, "I'm sorry. We'll instruct the cook to ensure your food's warmer." 5 more years, and Mother Superior says, "You can say 2 words again today. It's your 15th anniversary of being here." And Sister Mary Holywater says, "I quit." And Mother Superior said, "It's probably for the best. You've done nothing but complain since you got here." Culture. It's the way we do things around here. So as you reflect on that, reflect on the question of, is the way we do things around here set by me as the leader? And where can I see that evident in the building, in our governance, in our relationships with donors, alumni, with our parish, etc.? If any of you are Patrick Lencioni fans, I certainly am, and I bring this point to you again to say that many of our organizations, many of our schools are extremely smart. Strategy, marketing, finance, technology, governance, those things all may be very buttoned up. But I would also say that in those places where even those technical things are buttoned up, you'll recognize and you'll know places that are unhealthy. Healthy meaning we have minimal politics, there's minimal confusion, there's high morale, high productivity, low turnover. And these couple quotes that I have on here from Lencioni's book, The Advantage, where he talks about smart and healthy organizations, schools, it's really important to note that famous quote that I'll have up here in a couple of minutes: culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture eats strategy for lunch, you may have heard. Culture, the way we do things around here. We're going to put together the best strategic plan for our school, and it's going to be a growth strategic plan. Well, if the mindset and the culture is a hospice mindset, and we act as if the best days of Catholic education are behind us, then chances are the strategy, no matter how smart you are about those, will not take hold in the culture, in the place where you are trying to plant those seeds. So don't get me wrong, as Lencioni says here at the bottom, organizational health is not touchy-feely, bring your dog to work days and group yoga classes. I'm not suggesting that you take all your faculty out tomorrow afternoon and say, wow, I'm going to improve the culture and it's just going to be fun. But it's more than a side dish or a flavor enhancer, as he says. For the real meat and potatoes of the business, it's the very plate on which the meat and potatoes sit. It's the very plate on which the meat and potatoes sit. I had the opportunity yesterday to visit a school in Washington, D.C. with Cardinal Gregory. And when I was there, long before he arrived, I was probably 20 yards from the door, and a student held the door for me, welcomed me, greeted me, walked another 15, 20 feet, another student, "Can I help you? Do you know where the room is that you're going to?" Another 20, a teacher. But it was a culture of hospitality. You knew it as soon as you walked in. So we could be having a strategy discussion about enrollment, about marketing, and saying, boy, wouldn't it be great at this school to have student tours? I would say it would be great strategy to have students give tours at that school because it was a culture of hospitality. However, if I walked in that school and heads were down, nobody paid attention to me, people ran into me, didn't ask me where I was going, I would say probably not the best strategy for a place that does not have a culture of hospitality. So culture will eat the strategies up if the two are not talking with each other and meshing with each other. The strategies sit on that plate. That meat and potatoes sits on the plate of culture. In 10 years ago, again, this is really a call to action for you all as educational leaders. You know, these results, after multiple studies, multiple volumes of studies and data, came down to this. Our results indicate that highly effective principals raise achievement of students because of the culture that they set. Teachers have a direct impact on the students in their classroom, but principal quality affects all students in a given school. Your impact as a leader on the culture of your schools does make a difference. It does make a difference. The instructional strategies, extremely important. The differentiated instruction, extremely important. Technology integration, extremely important. But as a leader, as you cast that shadow of culture, as you define and challenge people about the way we do things around here, as you bring innovation and change to those ways of doing things around here, you will have an impact on the education of the students and the outcomes in your building. You may all be familiar with what happened with this company, Uber, back in 2017, when the founder and CEO was asked by his board to actually step down from the organization. And this little snippet shows that in a recent article said that the new leadership style stands in stark contrast to that of Travis Kalanick. Uber's co-founder used "burn the village," as he called it. He called it this in the organization, tone at the top. He used language like, "We're going to burn the village. We're going to take no prisoners." And he did it. He built up, as it says here, the behemoth that it is today, 73 countries, 18,000, 72 billion. Fantastic. But his Rambo style approach, while it made Uber a giant, it came with a lot of fallout. That has impacted its results over time, which is why the board intervened and said, you need to go. It was impacting results because it was impacting the people inside of the organization, and who was driving the results were the people inside the organization. The same is true in education. People leave people. People do not leave jobs. People leave cultures. They do not leave jobs. People leave because of toxic environment, of politics, of, yes, we may say as Catholic school educators, boy, we can't pay them. But I've not been made aware in my entire career of a school that ever closed for lack of teachers and commitment to mission and a lack of not doing what we ask them to do to go the extra mile. So that passion and enthusiasm is there because of the culture we have created. But more can be done to create that culture of growth and that mindset of innovation and change. So when you think about your own role as a leader, and you think about, again, that shadow, think about those that help you in leadership. I know of leaders who have done a tremendous job. They've done the academic turnaround of their school. But then you hear, but gee, there's blood on the walls. They have absolutely taken this same Rambo style, Kalanick style, burn the village approach. One way of doing things, but in the end, folks will leave and the culture will erode And while you will be able to have a pretty smart organization, a pretty smart school with great scores and blue ribbon results and all sorts of awards, the word will spread quickly that the culture of your school, though, is one of top down, strict, do as I say, dictatorship, Rambo style, burn the village. And generally, folks don't want to be a part of that kind of culture, whether they're a parent, an alum, a student, a teacher, or anyone in the community. So creating that culture benefits you in so many different ways. Again, very long story here, but it captures it's hard to believe that this even happened, frankly. In a culture such as Uber, though, it happened. So a woman who wrote a blog post that really brought this to everybody's attention. Things came to a head when, in an email exchange, she found out that all of the SREs were ordered leather jackets. And they all had tried them on for different sizes. And here's Kalanick saying, I'm going to take care of my employees. And all the women, and there were only 6 left in this division, received an email. Imagine this, saying that no leather jackets were being ordered for the women because there were not enough women in the organization to justify placing an order. Tone at the top, the way we do things around here. This woman replied, and I was sure that we could find room in the budget to buy leather jackets for the 6 women that were left. The director replied back that if they really wanted equality, then they should realize that they're getting equality but not getting the jackets. He said that because there were so many men in the org, they had gotten a significant discount on the men's jackets, but not on the women's. And it wouldn't be equal or fair to give the women leather jackets that cost a little more. We were told if we wanted leather jackets, we needed to find them at the same price or the same bulk price order. It gets better. She went on to HR, who told her the same thing. It's the way we do things around here. That tone set from the top created this toxic culture. It's hard to believe that in 2017, things like this were still happening. So it happens, and it may be in the smallest actions and in some of the procedures and in some of the policies, but it is the habits, it's the attitudes, it's the beliefs, it's the expectations. It's all of those things wrapped into one that you are setting up in your schools every single day by the way you do things around here. So reflect on and think about the habits, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations. Think about the things that we do all the time. Are they promoting a culture of growth? Are they promoting a culture that says the best days are ahead of us? Or are they promoting a culture that says, been a great run, Catholic education, let's let this die a comfortable death? Some practical things that I would like to give you to take away from this, if you will. You know, there's a long-standing argument around mindset versus skill set. Okay, as a school leader, as a diocesan leader, as an archdiocesan leader, my own approach was I hired for culture every single day of the week. I would hire for culture. Skills, yes, I assumed when they got to my level in the interview process that somebody had vetted out the skills, that they knew enough about trigonometry to be the department chair, or that they knew enough about instructional leadership that they were qualified to be the principal, or as presidents of our schools, that they were qualified to handle budget, enrollment, and be the outward-facing face of our school. So once that skill set, though, is vetted, once that skill set is known, and you are making a decision as a leader in your organization, in your school, I challenge you to ask some questions that I have found to be helpful in getting at people's mindset, seeing if they're a culture fit for your organization. First, tell them what your core values are as a school. These are our core values. This is our mission. Maybe read them your mission statement if they don't know it already. Tell them what your core values are and say, so candidate, which of those resonates best with you? What word in our mission statement resonates best with you, and what might you struggle with? What will this tell you? Well, the quickness of their response will tell you that they've reflected on this a little bit and maybe have known what your values were if they have a quick and meaningful answer. It may tell you, if they pause for a moment and reflect and say, can you tell me those again, that they are a reflective person and they're thinking about it. If they're quick to answer and they sort of fluff off the cultural piece or the values piece, then that may send you a signal that they're not a good fit for your school. But asking them to react to your core values, your mission statement, will tell you a little bit about their mindset and tell you a little bit about how they're going to contribute to your culture. This is a great question that I found to be very helpful. And if our webinar were a little bit more interactive and we were all talking and seeing each other, I would ask this, but this is a great exercise to do with your faculty or folks that you're interviewing. Say, what were the characteristics of the best supervisor you ever had? And typically, here's what you'll get. Oh, they were really smart, very intelligent. They were, they will give you, my guess they will give you that smart side of the equation rather than the healthy side. People will sometimes say they were kind, they were honest, they were, but on the opposite side of the coin, tell me about the worst supervisor you have ever had. They will double down on all of those things. They were mean. They'll never say they were dumb. They will never say they were, not intelligent, not capable. They may say these things, but they'll typically say, oh, they were just miserable to work for. What do you mean? They were not nice. They were kind. They were cutting in their words. They had a bad attitude. They made us do things we did not want to do, etc. If you can tap into that conversation in an interview question, you will begin to see in a person how they think about mindset and skill set. If this will resonate with them or it won't. And I think I have found in my career that in having a dialogue around this particular question, your best supervisor, what did they exhibit? And your worst supervisor, what did they exhibit? It helps you, A, as their future potential supervisor, to ascertain how you think this relationship is going to work out. B, it helps you, again, ascertain how they think about culture and how important it is to them. And C, I think it tells you how they will fit into the fabric of your organization, of your school. Another question I have found helpful in the interview process is everyone's expected to contribute to our culture here. How do you see yourself be an active participant in our culture? Well, Chris, how do they know what our culture is unless I've explained it? Ostensibly, you're in the school doing this interview. Ostensibly, this is not their first interview with you as the school leader. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But hopefully they picked up on some clues. Hopefully they've come into your school and at least spent some time there besides sitting in the chair waiting to interview with you. But even in that case, they may have observed things. As I said yesterday in the school in DC, I wasn't in there 5 minutes and I knew it was a place of hospitality. So they should be able to react to and have an intuition around your culture, either through the research they did on your website or the few minutes that they've spent there or in talking to other people. So it tells you, again, how attuned they are to the reality of culture and whether it matters to them or not. Second thing it obviously helps you to ascertain is what gifts, talents, and abilities are they bringing to the table that heretofore you may not have had in the organization, okay? Is to say, oh boy, I understand you have a culture here of hospitality. And I really enjoy giving tours, and I would love to be part of the admissions process and the enrollment process here at your school, because I understand you all take great pride in that. Again, that would be an indicator that you're hiring for culture, you're hiring the right person for your culture. Another question that I have also found helpful to sort of pressure test this idea of hiring for culture is saying, we sometimes call culture in our Catholic schools the hidden curriculum. Maybe that's a term you've heard. I know it's kind of an older term, but the hidden curriculum. Ask them, how will you help us to unhide that culture so people can see it at work? Really interesting question to ask, and to see their reaction to, gee, how will I help you unhide the curriculum? Again, when back in the early 80s, when I was in Catholic elementary school in suburban Cleveland, Ohio, the reality is that you could tell it was Catholic. A lot of Ursuline nuns in there. Priests were in and out of the hallways. We were gathered for prayer every morning in the central area of the school. There was mass on First Friday. They were all very visible signs of Catholic identity. One of the challenges, of course, of Catholic schools today is those visible signs of identity are not always readily apparent. So we have to work to demonstrate and to show our Catholic identity. And so asking this person this question will help you to ascertain, it seems to me, the question of culture, the question of how do they see themselves participating in this uniquely Catholic culture? How do they see themselves as a missionary disciple in terms of our own culture? How do they see themselves as participating in the work that we do here in a place where we proudly stand behind and with a Catholic worldview? So I have found these questions to be helpful. I have found them to be insightful. They've told me a lot more about people than any other questions that I've ever had the opportunity to ask as an interviewer. So I give you those in the spirit of saying, yeah, get the skill set, nailed down, and make sure you got a good math teacher that can deliver. And here's where that balance comes in. And this is that age-old debate, right? And I have a picture of a golfer here. I don't know if anybody's, I think it's Phil Mickelson at Pebble Beach. I'm a golfer. Also happen to be left-handed like Phil Mickelson. And if any of you are golfers or even tennis players, or any really sport, or you excel at free throws at basketball, yeah, I can hit a 7-iron 150 yards at course up the street here, the public course up the street here. That's a skill. I get out to Pebble Beach and I'm looking at that shot, 150 yards, and the wind's blowing, and I'm standing on the edge of history, literally, where so many great players have played and so many great championships have taken place, and the beauty of God's creation in Monterey Bay. Now my mindset takes over. And in order to execute that same 150-yard shot, I have to have a mindset that says, I can hit this. I've got this. I've got this. And so, again, I am sure that all of you that are participating today can say, yeah, I made the mistake of hiring for skills, but boy, oh boy, the soft skills, the cultural skills, the contribution to it, they were a train wreck. It was a disaster. And vice versa, right? We don't have somebody who comes in and is so about culture and so about that they don't care about classroom management, and they don't care about the technical side and the grade book and all of the things that need to be done in order to be a good teacher. But what I am trying to drive home today is having a good school, having a great school, is about you as the leader, not just having great skills and smart people and smart organization, but a healthy organization that has a culture that embraces growth, embraces innovation, embraces change, and is willing to take that risk of going down another street. Another exercise that I would like to sort of take you through, and again, I hopefully these webinars, hopefully at least in this webinar and in your own professional development, you get things that you can actually take away and use. I have found this to be extremely helpful in my work as a school leader. And in terms of your being able to facilitate this with your team of teachers, your administrative team, if you have one. I have done this as a self-check for myself as the leader. I have done it to evaluate organizations. Again, people say, how do you evaluate the culture? Well, that's a conversation for another day, is how do you actually evaluate it? And how do you get data that tells you what the culture is like? We know our test scores are here. We know that we place this many kids in the local high schools or colleges. We know that this many kids have community service, but how do you get this other data that tells us about the culture? Conversation for another day, but very doable and very meaningful. But in order to maybe do something a little bit simply and less complex, but I think gives you good information, is this. Ask your folks to come together in a faculty meeting. If you're a teacher on here and you want to do this in your classroom, obviously it would probably work best with older kids. Ask your boards, ask your parent teacher group. 4 quadrants. Okay, and I got to give my friend Matt Davidson credit for this, who turned me on to this little exercise. Folks, tell me what we should start doing. Tell me what we should stop doing. What should we do more of, and what should we do less of? This may not seem at first glance as a cultural analysis, but it is. If you take and do this exercise with folks, and I have found it to be extremely helpful impromptu. In other words, not to pass this out and say, at the next meeting, we're going to fill this out together. So please come, because people come with lists upon lists upon lists. What you want is what first comes to their, comes to their head. Or you want that sense in the room and that feeling in the room that people are collaborating at the moment on it. And you have this up on the chart in the front of the room, and you just write these things down. There's no reactions, no opinion, but what should we start doing, stop doing, do more of, do less of? When you extract that data, those bullet points, and you begin to reflect on them, it'll tell you exactly the way we do things around here. I'll give you an example. Do less of, okay? Pre-COVID, most of the mindset around meetings, most of the mindset around was book an hour. Just, what we need an hour. Post-COVID, there's a little bit of a different expectation of, maybe we could get this done in 30 minutes, because during COVID, we found ways to be a little bit more efficient with our time. We found ways that this Zoom setup was killing us, and to be on Zoom for an hour, as I'm sure you're learning if you're still awake with us, that's a long time to give attention when you're not in the room with somebody. And so what I've seen come back a lot is, can we do just less meetings? Can we do less? We think we can accomplish the same thing in 30 minutes that we were accomplishing in an hour, because the way we do things around here has changed. We're more efficient. We can say the same thing in 30 minutes we're saying in an hour. So I saw a lot more organizations, and even in my own organization, move things to like 30 minutes. We can cover this in 30 minutes, because that's what we were doing on Zoom, because Zoom for an hour seemed to be too long. Nobody else had anything to say, but you were kind of dragging it out. So 30 minutes. What should we start doing? Do more of. Those things tell you what to build up. That do more of quadrant, I would argue, is probably the most important quadrant for you as a leader to delve into. Say, we should do more of, this socializing at the end of a faculty meeting. We should do more of professional development on the spirituality of teachers. We loved what we did. You gave us a taste of it at that one in-service we did, but man, because the do more of tells you that the glimpses of things you've given them, they want more of. And so it helps you build up those things that you've already introduced them to. The stop doing is, again, sometimes, you gotta, as a leader, you gotta have that thick skin and that armor on to say, okay, and they'll, the Catholic educators in general, they're pretty honest. And so we ought to stop doing, why do we do this? Why do we do this? And you may come up with the answer of, well, because we've always done it that way. So we ought to stop doing this way, and start doing. This is where innovation and other ideas, come out of. So I'd encourage you to take a look at this and just do it with your team. Do it with a group that that you think will be candid and honest. I was going to say a group that you trust, but you don't want all of the oh, you're doing a great job, we should do more of everything because you're so wonderful as a leader. But this will give you a cultural analysis in a second in terms of the way we do things around here. It'll stretch your comfort zone as well. And then what I'd like to just leave you with, and I know I'm way ahead on time. I did want to leave time for questions and answers, and those of you that joined a little bit late, there is the Q&A box if you wanted to put any questions in there. I'm happy to answer them. But you've probably heard this story, and again, this is the story of the two frogs, right? The two frogs that were enjoying their day in the barn when they accidentally fell into the farmer's bucket of cream and they couldn't get out. The two frogs kept swimming around to keep from drowning, and every once in a while they try to climb out, but it was getting very, very tiring. So one frog kept saying, "This is useless, we should just give up." But the other frog just ignored the comment and kept swimming. Finally, the pessimistic frog gave up and drowned. The other frog was sad at the loss of his friend, but he wasn't going to give up. He kept swimming and swimming, and finally, that cream turned into butter, and the frog simply climbed out. Mindset. When the story of Catholic schools is written, historians will look back on our age and marvel that against great odds, we changed the ending. Changing the ending is up to us. Changing the expected ending of Catholic schools, both literally and figuratively, and perpetuating that hospice mindset that the best days are behind us. It was a great run. Now, I don't think our schools are going to have 5 and 6 and 10,000 students in a high school. Educationally these days, that wouldn't necessarily be the right way to go. I'm not sure that classrooms of 36 and 40 students in an elementary school would fly these days. I don't mean simply a growth mindset of enrollment and more students. We would always love that. But a mindset that says we can grow this organization, not just with students, but with ideas and concepts and innovation and change and opportunities that we have right now in front of us as Catholic schools to change the ending. Many times people ask me, well, we compete with the public schools and they have, we do compete with the public schools, and many schools across the country are having great success with competing simply on, we're a Catholic school. We are a Catholic school. No, we do not have all of these topics and controversial issues that we know you need to. That's innovative for us to say we are Catholic and this is what we stand by. And parents are seemingly wanting to see more and more of that as you see the pop-up of the classical schools and the more traditional Catholic schools. That is a sign and signal that there is no shame in who we are in our identity. So it takes us risking, it takes us going down that street, it takes us going down that new street, not just avoiding the hole. It takes us changing the way we do things around here. It takes us hiring for culture and asking the right questions during the interview process. It takes us doing some self-reflection and self-evaluation of our own culture through exercises like the one I just took you through. But it takes resolve, and it takes folks like you to a place of stretching your comfort zone, saying, you know what, I want to set up a culture here or build on the culture I already have, and really be a place where growth, innovation, and change is celebrated, and not a place where we tamp down all of the innovation and are risk adverse. And oh gosh, we don't want to try this. And we'll take care of that from the top. But a community, as we're called to be as Catholic schools, that says we embrace our culture and we promote our culture, and we're not ashamed of our culture. So I hope that what you take away today is at least the opportunities that you have as leaders, whether you are the leader of your school, leader of your classroom, or any other part of your school. You have the opportunity to set that tone at the top and to cast that shadow and to make sure that the school is taking on that personality that you want it to take on in a culture of growth, innovation, and change. So with that, Laura, I know I am way ahead on time, but I did want to leave time for questions. If there are any in the chat box, you'd have to give me a clue, Laura, whether that is the case or not.
Well, if you do have questions, go ahead and you can enter them in the Q&A box now. As we are waiting to see if any of you have questions, I'm going to share the link to the survey, and whether you're participating live now or joining us and watching this later asynchronously, please complete the survey. We really strive to improve the quality of our services, and as members, we want your feedback, please. And then it's a brief survey. If you include your email at the end, you'll have the option to include that. We will send you a certificate of completion to say that you were with us today. And let's thank Christopher and Malmany for your time. Some great tools, some wonderful examples to affect change and the growth mindset in our schools. We really appreciate it. And Chris, you must have been very thorough, because it doesn't appear that we have any additional questions, but
And I know up here in the Northeast, this is the opening of school. This is opening school week. In other places I know opened already, but I know folks are very busy. So I'm grateful to the folks that have stuck with us through this and participated. And I hope many others will be able to see the recorded as well. So thanks for the opportunity, Laura.
Absolutely. On behalf of NCA, we really appreciate all of you, Chris, and to our members who were joining us here today. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks.